Hey, my name is Byron Summerall. I'm with Acklen Avenue, and I'm joined by several other people that are on the team here at Acklen Avenue. We got Carlos, we've got Deanna, Jean, Nathaniel, Pamela, Paulette, Sharon, Luis. They're together there, and Stephanie. And we have people from many different disciplines within our company. We've got some QA testers, we've got some BAs, we've got some product owners in the Scrum sense, and we also I'm a developer, and also Luis, who's there with Sharon, is a developer. So we're trying to attack a new topic, but from a lot of different directions, and it should be relevant to everyone on the call, and hopefully in other areas also. We're also making this video part of our community content, so it's available to anyone in or outside of Acklen Avenue, and we encourage you, if you think it's useful to someone, then pass that link on over to them. We're very interested in building community, especially in the United States and in Honduras, which are our two places where our team lives. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to share my screen and share with you a little just some concepts that I've been toying with, and just trying to get my own head around the concepts, and also trying to find out the amazing ways that we can use this technology and these concepts in our own company. So before I get into Gherkin, the language, I want to talk about just a little bit about what versus why. So we do a lot of things. We're very skilled at making software. We make software every single day. We've got the what down pat. We really understand what to do when we're given any situation regarding software. But sometimes we don't always have a why that backs our what. And what I mean by that is sometimes we do what we know we're supposed to do without necessarily knowing why. So before we start adopting a technology or a concept as part of our development process in Acklen Avenue, we want to really understand the why behind what we're doing. To me, why is drive. It's motivation. It's impetus. It's the thing that causes you to do the what. So in our industry, especially, we've got a lot of X-driven somethings. So we've got like domain-driven design. We've got test-driven development. We've got behavior-driven development, acceptance test-driven development, hypothesis-driven development. We are driven by lots of different things, and so especially in the software development industry, there's a lot of these terms that we throw around that are like X-driven or asterisk-driven something, and it's really just trying to say that there is something that drives us. So this X-driven anything is really just a framework or a collection of what's that are motivated by some why. For instance, domain-driven design. The what is some examples. The what's are like ubiquitous language. There are some patterns that go along with domain-driven design. We think about the domain first. That's the what's. The why is to keep the business and the development teams united to build the right thing. Test-driven development, on the other hand, the what's are test first. We all know we're supposed to write a test first before we write anything else. Red, green, refactor. There's a long list of stuff from Uncle Bob and from all sorts of community writers that tell us the what's behind test-driven development. But why do we do it? Is it so that we can have fat test suites, so that we can say that we've got hundreds of tests? Or is it because of test coverage? Not exactly. The more strong whys are better design, regression protection, auto-documented code. We don't have to have a bunch of messy comments in our code because we have tests that help explain what the code is supposed to do. Small, steady steps toward the goal. unit level testing. That's test-driven development. That's the why behind that. Then there's behavior-driven development. So the what is things like context, specification, style of TDD. And sorry if this is kind of like this is heavy stuff for non-developers, but context specification is when we as developers we say we start with when there is something happening, then it should do this, or it should result in this. That's context specification. So the reason why we use tools like MSpec in .NET, or the reason why we use Jasmine or Mocha with this kind of language of plain language laying out a sentence of how something should work is because of the context specification style that is prescripted by behavior development. It also gives an emphasis. Another one of the what's is emphasis on collaboration between business and developer to focus on behavior first, then code after. So that's behavior-driven development. But why? Why should we choose behavior-driven development? Well, to me, it's because the team needs to understand what and why they're building some product, so that real requirements are met, not just the ones that are written and spoken. Because sometimes someone comes to us with some idea that they want to build, and so they'll say, I want this, this, and this, and this. Well, then a developer who thinks of things completely different, or a tester thinks of things completely different from a different angle, and they say, well, did you think about this? What about this? Well, if you do that, you're going to need this, and it starts to help us build and collaborate on a product that actually meets real requirements, not, like I said, not just the ones that are spoken or written down. So then another one of these driven development, X-driven development, is acceptance test-driven development. And this is something that we've really started to get more committed to in the past couple of years. So the what's are acceptance tests first, kind of like TDD where the test is first, but this is the acceptance test first. So it's a much higher level. And then there's the automated acceptance test is another one of the what's, a very high level red-green refactor. Why? Why go down the road of acceptance test-driven development? Well, it's because it provides us clear definition of done. It provides us hyper-focus on the prize, clear understanding of what is done. Acceptance test-driven development is so cool. And then the last one that I wanted to mention is hypothesis-driven development. It's a little bit less less technical and more strategic. So, what are the what's? So it's really simple, small product design changes guided by scientific method. So you see that word hypothesis, that takes you back to 7th or 8th grade physical science or something like that, and you start thinking about scientific method and theories, and how do you get to that theory, or how do you get to a law, how do you prove things, and scientific method is really good for that. So hypothesis-driven development helps us to maybe look at something that we're going to say about a product. Like we think if we put the button here, then we're going to get people to click that button more often. Well, that is our hypothesis. The result that we're expecting is that we're gonna have 500 more clicks in the next month. That's our hypothesis, and then you go about proving it. Why would we go about that? Why would we try to do that? Why don't we just build exactly what we're told to build? Well, we want to build the right thing based on assumptions proven by measurable signals, not necessarily just what our client comes to us and says is this is what I want. We actually want to be a partner with our client and actually say, well, here's something that we think might be the case, and let's just test it. Let's see what happens. That's hypothesis-driven development. It actually lets your hypothesis guide how you develop things, and then you can go back and make small corrections. So surprisingly enough, all of these different X-driven development, actually they fit together really, really well. In fact, this exact group of frameworks is what guides most of what Acklen Avenue does every single day. And if you want to internalize the whys of these different things, you should research, or of how we do things, you should research these frameworks. If you didn't write them down, I'm happy to share them with you anytime. So today we're going to focus on the what that's called Gherkin. But first I want to re-emphasize the why behind Gherkin. So let me go back to my slides. The why is so important. Let's see if I can find that window again. There we go. So why Gherkin? In each one of these I say we. And really what I mean is the entire team. So don't just think about you and your discipline. Think about you and the rest of the entire team that is working hand in hand building software. We want to understand what we're building and why we're building it. We want to build the right thing. Who wants to spend months building something that in the end is never actually going to be used?
Hey, Byron, right now I'm
yep.
seeing a black screen.
Yeah, same here. I think you're not sharing screen.
How about now? So you can still see my face, or you said
seeing your face.
There we go.
Now you can see my face, but that's not really what we want.
Correct.
All right, how about now?
Nope.
It's loading in.
It's loading.
We have an echo from someone.
Everybody mutes all at once.
It was Deanna. Sorry.
Still black, huh?
Yep.
That's a really awesome feature of Hangouts.
It was working earlier, so.
Oh, good. Well, maybe here I'm gonna trick it. Do a little programmer thing. I'm gonna change the size ever so slightly, and let's just see if that works. Whoa.
We had something there for a second.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So back to the beginning of this bullet list. We want the entire team. We want to understand what we're building and why we are building it. Nothing can light a fire under a development team better than knowing what they're building and why they're building it. Nothing can deflate a development team more than withholding information and keeping them from knowing why they're building something. Everyone wants to be significant and fulfill purpose, and so that's why we are always very, very strong on the why we are building it. We want everybody to know that. Why we want to build the right thing. So between client requirements or between what the public actually wants, we want to build the right thing. No one wants to spend a bunch of time trying to build something that's never actually going to be used or that's just really the wrong thing. That's exactly why we do iterative development. Every 2 weeks we're releasing. We want to keep the business and the development teams united so that there is excellent communication. Everything feels great when there's excellent communication. And we want to meet real, actual requirements, not just the ones that are written or spoken. And so, by the way, you're seeing some mirror. Some of these are coming from the whys of the frameworks that we talked about. That's intentional. We want to know when something is done, even if we're neck deep in details. So I don't know about you all, but I've been neck deep in details sometimes. And when you're in the weeds or when you're neck deep in those details, it's very hard to be able to come up for air and maybe zoom back out to that higher level and be able to see whether something is actually done, because you're just stuck in the weeds. You just keep going and going and going. So why we should use Gherkin is because of that right there. That's in and of itself a great reason to go with Gherkin. We also want to feel the achievement when we finish a feature. Everyone wants to be able to climb the mountain and then put that flag in the top of the mountain. When you have accomplished something big, everyone wants to celebrate that achievement or wants to wants to market somehow in their lives. I've been on hiking trips, and Carlos has been going on a lot of hiking trips lately, and we probably are doing the same thing. So when you're going up a mountain hiking, and you get to a pretty high spot, and there's like a nice overlook, do you just keep on walking? No, you sit and you just rest, and you sit there and you just look over the overlook, and it's awesome. And you feel that achievement. The people that just keep on walking, I don't know what they're thinking. In fact, I don't think they even exist. I think that if you're working that hard to get to a high place, you're going to stop and you're going to enjoy it. So we should also be able to do the same thing. We want to feel the achievement when we finish a feature, and Gherkin can help us do that. So what is Gherkin? Well, hang on a second. You're rushing me. First, what is acceptance criteria? Anybody want to tell me what acceptance criteria is? Quick summary.
Maybe the conditions that satisfy what is accepted by the final client or user.
Okay, that's great.
A definition of done.
Okay. And acceptance criteria usually assumes more than just one. Otherwise, it would be acceptance criterion, I think, if I got my Latin right. Yeah. So so one feature might have several acceptance criterias, or one user story, sometimes we call it, might have several acceptance criteria. So what's the difference between acceptance criteria and acceptance tests? This one's a tough one.
I would have to say that the acceptance criteria define what the acceptance tests have to be, what they're testing for.
Okay. I've seen. I've actually been reading up on this because Sharon challenged me on this a couple weeks ago, and some people say that they're the same thing. Some people actually have a line that separates the two, where acceptance tests are more like plain English, and they're written by somebody that doesn't know anything about where the buttons are and what to click, and then the acceptance tests are actually more like a technical description of where to click, if needed, even down to the pixel or the coordinate on the screen, things like that. So what about automation? So acceptance tests are usually, well, I don't know about usually, but in a lot of ways, when I think of an acceptance test, I think of automation, because I'm thinking of some sort of test that can be executed whenever I want it, repeatedly, and be able to prove that something is finished, or that some sort of acceptance criteria passes.
Yeah, it seems to me that acceptance tests are more, what they might have like a binary result. They might be more specific, so maybe you're trying to find a defect for the product. So acceptance tests may include a lot of pass or fail sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. So Gherkin, keep on saying, what is Gherkin? Gherkin is about bringing BAs, POs, designers, testers, and developers together to collaborate on and understand the product by using a simple, repeatable format. To go even further, Gherkin actually reduces waste and maximizes your human potential by allowing plain English acceptance criteria to double as automated acceptance tests. Now, how is that even possible? Well, let's take a look at my my next example here. So tell me when you can. Oh, yeah. Tell me when you can see my screen. Good. All right. So let's take a look at your grandmother's acceptance criteria here. Given an authenticated user, when I create a product and view the product in a list, then it should show me the new product. So pretty straightforward, pretty standard. Now take a look at this same exact acceptance criteria in Gherkin. This is the old and busted. Now the new hotness. Given an authenticated user, carriage return, when I create a product, carriage return, and I view the product list, carriage return, then it should show me the new product, carriage return. I don't even know if that last carriage return is necessary. Now just let that sink in for a second. Now I know what you're thinking, Nathaniel. Hey, all you did was insert some carriage returns.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
And yeah, there's actually more to it. But for now, let's just discuss this, what this simple change does for us. So take a look at it here in this table instead. Given an authenticated user, then let's think about this in terms of segments and steps. So the segment is just that first part, maybe the first line in Gherkin, given an authenticated user. The step is going to be some sort of instruction, whether it's a manual instruction for a tester, a human tester, or some sort of instruction for a machine tester. Connect to the site, log in with creds. That's given an authenticated user. Then go to the next segment, when I create a product. Okay, the steps are, click on the create product, fill in the form, click create. Boom. Then how about the next one, when I view the product list? So the steps are, just navigate to the product list page. Then the very last one is, then it should show me the new product. So we're talking about the observation, the thing that we can assert on. So it's going to fail if the product is not visible. Otherwise, it's just going to pass. Now, how many acceptance criteria might start with given an authenticated user? We're going to get into some of the big benefits of Gherkin here. Probably more than a few. When thinking of acceptance criteria from the perspective of repeatable tests, it would be really nice if we could avoid writing steps like connect to the site, log in with creds. Well, with Gherkin, and because of that insignificant carriage return, we can actually reuse that whole auth segment. Just like a programmer reuses a function in code, we can actually reuse those segments. So let's take it a little further. How many acceptance criteria might we assume that we're acting upon a test product or a new product? So Gherkin is actually going to help us by allowing us to copy and paste these segments into as many acceptance criteria as we need. Since the step, the technical part, the step is already written, it just works. So here's another example of acceptance criteria where we can reuse quite a bit based on these segments and steps that we have. So given an authenticated user, when I create a product and I delete a product and I view the product list, then it should not show me the product. Well, 3 of these steps I was able to reuse because the steps have already been written. So as a BA or a product owner or anybody that's collaborating on the creation of the acceptance criteria, I can just copy and paste this given an authenticated user creating a product and viewing in a list. I can copy those, paste them into any acceptance criteria that I need, and the steps are already there. I don't know about you, but that's pretty impressive. I need some applause for that. I'm kidding. So let's take a quick quiz. We'll let one person answer one question. So who wants to go with the first one? Who writes the acceptance criteria, ideally?
BAs?
The PO or the client?
Okay. Anybody else want to take a stab at that one?
All
I
of
haven't heard the right answer yet.
The development team, in conjunction with the client.
Yeah. Well, I would say that one is probably the closest one. So yeah, the person who who writes the acceptance criteria is not just a person; it's actually the entire dev team. So who wants to do the next one? Who writes the steps?
So is it the BA or the QA?
Sometimes QA.
Okay. The steps in this case, unless our BA is extremely or is just very well versed in coding, I would say that the most common person to write the steps here would be a QA tester who's been trained in some lightweight coding, or a developer. So then the third one. Are steps always for automated or always for manual testing?
I think the purpose is to eventually automate the tests.
Yeah. This
I
one's a
would.
trick question. It's a really horrible, evil
I
trick
think
question.
I think it's both because you need to
Ah!
test the UI also, and that's
Yeah.
only manual.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And sorry for the trick question. I always hated those when teachers would throw those at me. So yeah, manual testing, the steps can just become a test plan. So it might be that exact, the wording that I used here, where it just says like log in, go to login screen, log in, or create a product by clicking on this button. It might be just that. So starting out, we might have manual testing that's going by these test steps. It just turns into a test plan. But then on the other side, automated testing can be amazing, and Gherkin, because of this format, is actually enabling us to use that. So steps that are written in code called script are what we use, and they're executed in what's called a test runner. So steps can be for API, desktop, mobile, web applications, really anything that we create. We could create automated steps for these acceptance criteria. So that's powerful and very cool. Very minor changes so far that we've made, but let's take Gherkin a little bit deeper. What happens if you want to prove that the acceptance criteria passes with a varied set of data or user input, not some static data, but actually some maybe a list of different possible numbers or strings or something like that? Well, so we're going to write a bunch of similar looking acceptance criteria, right? No, not with Gherkin. Now, if we're doing everything outside of Gherkin, we might end up writing a bunch of acceptance criteria where they all kind of look the same. But Gherkin actually gives us a way to be able to kind of like dynamically insert different kinds of data. So we're going to use what I would call wildcards or maybe just variables. Programmers are very accustomed to the concept of using variables. So we're going to steal a little bit of information or a little bit of their concepts and put them into this. So let's take a look at another slide here, and I apologize if it's a little bit too small, some of the text. I don't know, can you all see that text? Is it okay?
Not yet, still black.
I'm seeing the black screen of death.
All right, how about if I resize it? Does it do it?
Nope.
No? Awesome.
We still have the same shade of black.
Okay, same exact shade, not some extra blue in there. How about now?
Awesome.
Yep. Okay, cool. And hopefully you can see the text that's down below in the content area.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this one's more like an agricultural example. I don't know much about feeding baby cows, but I do know that you have to feed them, and what you feed them might depend on their weight, maybe on their race. But in this case, we're just going to use their weight as an example. This is not my example, by the way. I don't know the first thing about baby cows. Stole this from the one of the websites that actually promotes the use of Gherkin. So at the very top, you see outline, scenario outline, and then feeding a baby cow. We're going to talk about the syntax there in just a minute, but then you get it back into some familiar country where we've got given the cow weighs. But you see that one right there in red at weight bracket. Well, then look down below also in the examples section. You see a weight column. So you can kind of imagine that this test will start using some of the numbers from weight, and then you can see down below the energy should be energy, and the protein should be protein. So those little brackets that you see are actually providing the system that reads the Gherkin syntax with a way to know where you intend to use a variable like that. So that's pretty simple, right? So by the info in the table examples, the test will be executed how many times?
4 times.
Right. And it provides expectations for each execution so that we can know whether it passes or fails. Automated or manual testing, that's clear and repeatable. I mean, even if you're manually testing this, you know exactly how to test it. So let's talk a little bit about Gherkin syntax. Every line of a Gherkin feature is significant, unless it's a blank line, that is. There are several components that we can use in a feature file, and we'll get to a feature file here in a second. That could help us enrich our acceptance criteria for the benefit of the whole team. So here are just a few of the most important pieces of syntax. One is the feature. That's a just at the top of your feature file, you'd put that word feature and then the colon and then just the name of the feature. It could be something simple like user authentication. It could be feeding a cow. It could be buying a loaf of bread. And typically you'd only have one feature in a feature file because the assumption is that the feature file is just one file, one text file that deals with only one feature. And then within that feature, you've got scenarios. So you might have several scenarios, like in the feeding the baby calf feature. There might be a scenario of successfully feeding the calf, or maybe the calf ran away, so that'd be another scenario. Or another scenario would be that you ran out of food before the calf could be fed. Things like that. Of course, in software world, we can get to a lot more meaningful scenarios. And then you also saw scenario outline before in the slide right before. I'll show it to you again. That right there, that scenario outline is actually used in tandem with the examples syntax, which basically alerts the thing that reads Gherkin to use that data table down below. So that's what the examples are. Then we get into the familiar territory of just given, when, then. Of course, given describes an initial context, the world in which you should be operating, and then when, describing an event or an action. So that's the actual thing that you do. You shouldn't have a whole lot of whens because we're focused on just one action. And then the then is also it has a very specific purpose. That it's just trying to describe an expected action or an expected outcome, I should have put. Then in Gherkin, it's really useful to have and. So and can actually start a line, and it just takes on the characteristics of whatever is right before it. So if you put it after a given, it's also a given. If you put it after a when, it's also a when, and so forth. There are other really useful pieces of syntax, but it's in this case, I just wanted to get to the most important ones. There's all kinds of documentation on the internet that's really helpful, so that you can do your own research and improve and enrich these tests or these acceptance criteria. So here's an example of a complete, albeit very simple example of a feature file. So this is one that we're going to be using just a minute in a live example. The feature is user authentication. And so I took the liberty of just putting a user story right below the feature. That's not necessary, or sorry, it's not required, but we do a lot of user stories, and so this user story it might be just helpful to have it in the feature file. It actually doesn't affect the way Gherkin runs, and Gherkin doesn't use it. It's just there for our benefit. So the feature syntax can always be followed by a paragraph or whatever, and it won't try to parse that. Then you start getting into the scenario language, and then given, when, then, and all that. So right now you can see I've got two scenarios: a successful login and an invalid password. So the successful login is we're gonna go to the login screen, check to make sure all the fields are blank, enter the password, the username password, and click the login button. The next screen that we should see is a listing page, and then there should also be a log out option. And then the other one is just kind of the opposite in some ways, where we enter the wrong password.
Can I jump in here and ask some questions? Regarding this live example, two things. First, is there a way to test in Gherkin things like user interface changes based on, so for example, I know that's not an email address, so since it's asking in the username field, and so in material design, a lot of the modern UIs, there's a little tooltip or hint underneath that says not a valid email, and it won't accept it.
Right.
Is that testable here?
Oh yeah. In that case, we would just have another scenario for invalid or poorly formed email address. So
Okay.
you'd basically do the go to given the login screen, and all fields are blank. The all fields are blank is really just, it's not necessary all the time. It's just a way to reset the field just in case they have stuff in it. And then you can do when entering an invalid email address.
Okay.
And then your then is not going to be some other, what page they went to. It's just going to be then, and in your plain English as a PO or a BA, your plain English is just going to be then they should see a tooltip that says the email address is not formed correctly. Okay. As easy as that. Then the developer or the QA engineer who's going to actually add the step is the one that has to be concerned with how to actually implement that. But you're not concerned with that. Okay. What's really, really nice about this is that it allows the entire team, everyone on this call, can be affected by, but also can have influence on the feature, as far as the criteria, the acceptance criteria, the scenarios, mm-hmm. and also the steps that back it. So being able to actually create the steps is not always something that everyone can do, but everyone is able to collaborate also on the scenarios. It's just powerful for everyone to be able to get in there and do things. It holds us back less, and it also enables really cool things like automation. So how about an automation demonstration? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to take this feature right here, and I'm actually just going to copy it into a tool that has integration with my development environment. And remember, part of this can be done by non-coders, and then other part can require some lightweight coding skills, which you'll get to see here in just a minute, just how lightweight those coding skills are. So let's switch to another window here, and here's a tool that I found just while I was doing my research for this. And I'm just going to copy this feature from another file that I've got, and I'm going to paste it right in here.
We are looking at a black screen again.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so
but
I'm going to stop.
Very consistent.
Yeah, at least it's a consistent black screen. Okay. So try it again. How's that? Oh, right. Okay, good. So they will have a picnic. I don't know why. So copy this and paste this over here. Okay. So obviously I've been playing with this before. So it actually has some check marks next to some of these, which is not ideal for a demonstration. I'd rather you be able to see these actually start working. But just to show you really quick how this works, my feature is here. I've got some code, some words that Gherkin doesn't care about. I've got a scenario. It does care about the scenario names. and then the given, when, then, and all that. It does actually care about these. These, when I was testing before the demonstration, I actually ran these and I got them to pass. Before that, they had red X's because they weren't passing quite yet. Now these, I don't have any code in there at all, so there's no green here. I'm just going to go ahead and commit these changes. This is actually using Git to store the feature files. Luis called me out the other day in chat. Was like, "Hey, what's this thing you're putting in my repo?" So very territorial, those developers. A feature. Now you get to see what this was, Luis. So that's committed to GitHub. Now all the poor developers are going to have to. Oh, this is at YKC Mobile.
I have a question. I don't know if I
ahead.
can jump in. I was doing some additional reading on Gherkin, and I was reading that you can replace the given, when, then with bullets. Is that something recommended?
I am not sure. Sounds interesting.
I'll post a link on the Hangout. You can read it later.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. If there are bullets, then it might mean that you're just basically setting up a sequence of what should happen. Personally, I like given, when, then because there is some meaning to me behind given and the when and the then. There's a meaning behind each one. So I don't mind having the words there. So you see this one right here. There's actually no way to run the test, and that's okay. This is really this would be the place where BAs and POs get to collaborate on or everybody gets to collaborate on the actual scenarios. And then we move into, I'm going to show you another tool. I'm going to show you my my developer window.
Hey, it's black, same shade as before.
But is it the same? It's just black, right? Okay.
Same blackness, yes.
Okay. Resize that a little bit. I'm not sure if the resizing actually helps, but I feel like this is a bug.
It did not
How about
help.
now? Nope. Okay. So we'll do it one more time. Yeah. Yeah.
Black.
There we go.
Hey, there's
is
a
working
black
now?
background. There's a black background. White numbers, white letters.
Yep. Okay. Good. Yeah. That's what you should be seeing. So only the coolest developers like dark backgrounds. So that's a shout out for all you developers who like white backgrounds. Bad for your eyes. So so this is the same feature that we had in the other place. The reason why it's the same is because both my coding tool and the tool that's available for the BAs and POs they're both feeding from the same source, which is GitHub. So our project happens to be in GitHub, and this file exists in both. So like I said, I was playing with this the other day. So I have a steps file, so I'll just go there, and this is actually just very, very, very simple stuff. You can see here given, when, then. So pretty simple. Then you get into maybe a little bit more scary stuff just because of the slash and the caret symbol and the $slash. But the stuff that's inside is pretty easy to remember or pretty easy to understand. We're just kind of think back to that original. I'm not going to risk switching windows because I don't want to risk the black screen again. But just remember that back in the original scenario there was given the login screen. So this given the login screen is going to use the browser. And it's going to open up, when it runs this test, it's actually going to open up a new browser, and it's just going to navigate to this URL. Now I'm testing against another website that I have a login for. I couldn't test with the YKC site because there's something wrong with the dev server at this moment. So I'm navigating it to this page where there is a login screen. Pretty simple, right? So every time any test uses given the login screen, it will come here. It will come and run this code. And then also, given all the fields are blank, then it will always run this code right here, where it's basically setting the value of an input named username to nothing, empty string. Same thing with password. So it's basically clearing out the value of username and password. Then getting into the whens, when entering the test user's username, once again, it's just the same exact plain English right here, just surrounded by some scary-looking regular expression stuff. And here, instead of setting a value to an empty string, we're actually setting it to a real email address. So everybody in YouTube land can actually see the password that I chose for this account. I don't care. It's probably okay. So input username, developers bot. So it's basically setting the username with the same input, and then setting the password, and then I'm going to click the login button. Actually, I cheated a little bit, and I told it to send the key, the enter key. So basically, after it enters the password, it's going to press enter, the robot. So if I wanted to be more specific, I could probably do like a browser.click. There's documentation for all of this. So I'm just going to do a button like that. Maybe that's all it takes. I'm not sure. But just to not have demo errors, I'm actually going to put it back the way it was. And then the next screen, getting into the thens, the next screen the user should see has a listing of. So I know that when you go to this page, it's going to be able to find Blue Jedi on the page. So browser get text, it's going to find this HTML element. This is especially the part where it takes somebody that knows at least about CSS selectors, which a lot of times will put our POs out, or put our sometimes our QA testers, it'll put them out too. But with some training, somebody can understand this. So it's going to get I've got phone calls coming in. So you get the text, and then it's going to expect that it contains Blue Jedi. And then there should also be a log out option. So it should click the browser click. It should click this thing up at the top of the screen that toggles a drop down, and then it should get the text of the list. Once again, more technical stuff, but it should contain the word log out. So if I run all of these tests, I wonder if I can do it. This is Visual Studio Code, so I wonder if it's got a a console. Let's just see. Usually I'll use a different console. There might be a console in this tool, but I'm not sure how to pull it up. So I'm not going to try. I'm just going to go into my other tool, and I'm not going to risk trying to. I'll go ahead and risk it. I just want you to see what happens. So I'm going to go over to my my console here, and confirm for me that you can see that. Yep. Okay. So I've got a command here that's just kind of in my my computer's memory, so I can actually run this command. And what it's going to do is, and you can't see what it's doing right this moment, especially because there's an error. Now we get the error. We get to have the whatchamacallit, the demo errors. Awesome. So I'm going to do a git add to see if this works. Oh, I'm a master. Choose right. Now you can't see what I'm doing right now because it's You really can't see what I'm doing right now because it didn't work. Compare. Just use one of them. It doesn't matter to me. Features, save. All right, well, let's just see if it works now. Command. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, so you can't see what it's doing right now, but it opened up a browser window, and it actually started typing into the username and password fields. And man, if I could show that to you, that'd be so cool. But my screens are too big, and it would blow your the hang up. But you can see here that that these let's see, back up here, the successful login, all of these passed. Green just means pass. It's the international symbol. But for invalid password, some of them didn't pass. These three did pass, and then it gets down to this one, and it's yellow because it was just undefined. And then it wasn't. It does have a click the login button, but it doesn't have anything. It can't use it because it's coming after one that was ignored. And then there's another one, a couple more down here that are just not covered. So what's cool is. I can actually, it's giving me a suggestion of what I can type or what I can add to my step file. I can just copy this, and then I can go over to my steps file, and I'm going to paste it in, and I really should bring you back over to my other screen. All right, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's good. All right, so when entering an invalid password, so I'm going to go up here to the valid password, and I'm going to steal some code. I'm going to just type in invalid. So I'm going to actually have it type the word invalid there. So then the user should see should still see the login screen. So I need to know something about the login screen. So I'm actually going to go over to get Corello. And I'm going to go through this process manually myself and see what happens if I type in the wrong. All right, so on this page, you can't see it, but on this page there is an H2 that's called login. So I'm going to say browser get, I'm going to say expect browser get text, and this is an H2, so H2 and to contain login. So that just proves that I'm on the login screen. And then I also noticed that there is a little message that comes up, unknown email or password. So I'm actually just going to copy that right off the page. And that is a class, a div class alert danger. So I'm going to say expect browser get text from a div alert danger to contain I want Osmond to yell at me for using double quotes. Okay, so that was, even under the stress of people watching me, it was not too difficult to add these three steps. And so now let's just let's say what I've got here, and it's saying I can't save it. Yeah. Okay, and then, yeah, that's still good. Okay, good. So I'm going to switch back over to my console, and you should be able to see this work a little bit better. Unfortunately, once again, you're not going to be able to see the browser open up, but it's going to open up twice. It types in the username and password, and then it measures the results. And so now you can see that I've got a successful login that's all passing. I've got an invalid password scenario that's all passing. And then we're going to switch back over to one other screen to show the Simian. So now you can see in Simian that all of my check marks are green. Sweet. So I didn't go into this behind the scenes and actually put check marks. it was actually done by the tool that I was using to run the tests, but it reports back to this tool for us, which is really a nice thing. It gives us, if I'm a PO, then I want to be able to report back to my stakeholders that something is done. These check marks, if it's an automated test, these check marks give me a lot of confidence to be able to say, yes, this right here, this scenario is done. Hopefully, we're dealing with things that are much more important than a successful or an invalid login, and we typically are. So these scenarios are going to be more important, things like payment received and things like that. And if you can see some green check marks next to something that represents that you just received money, yeah, that feels good. So this is a feature file. I've only got one right here. This features folder could potentially be full of other folders to kind of organize things, subfolders, or it could just be a folder full of different little feature files. Once again, we're using the Gherkin syntax. Not a lot going on there. It really does kind of go back to the original thing that I was saying about carriage returns. We just get each one little segment on its own line, and then Gherkin is able to parse things and match them up with steps that were written by a developer or QA tester. And it's pretty cool. So I've talked an awful lot, and I want to give you all the chance in the remaining minutes that we have to be able to raise questions, make comments, fill in any gaps that I may have forgotten to say something or something interesting about this, and don't be shy.
All right, I've got 3 based on notes I've taken.
Cool.
The first one, Byron, was I didn't see anything about or in the commands. So even this or that. In other words, it would make a logic tree a lot easier because there's only one way that it passes if both are true.
Right.
Whereas having to build it out means I'd have to create 4 tests.
Yeah.
Do you know if...
Absolutely right. I'm going to give you, for one thing, even if I give you a URL, you can find 5 more that do the exact same thing.
I just didn't know if you knew if Gherkin supported or.
I think it does because that's something that someone else has also wanted in the past. So if you do just a Google search for Gherkin and or, let's just see. Right, Gherkin or syntax. Cool. So I'm going to go to now. The Gherkin was created by the people that created a tool called Cucumber. Cucumber is an automated acceptance testing tool, and Gherkin is just a language that they created to support their tool. And it happens to be open source, and everyone in the world can use it for other tools. So I was using a tool called Simian. It's reading and parsing Gherkin just fine. So there is a whole documentation surrounding the syntax. And it might be that you just need to do a Google search on Gherkin syntax. Let's see. I did see a but I didn't want to. Get into that. I felt scared. Here, cucumber.io, they have a documentation section and then a reference, and the reference is it applies 100% to Gherkin. So let's see. There's a but, given, when, then, and but steps. So let's see if I can find. If there are multiple given or when steps underneath each other, you can use and or but. Cucumber does not differentiate between the keywords, but choosing the right one is important for readability. Okay, so I guess and or but is the same thing. But I guarantee that the what you're asking about has been asked before. So so let's table that one, and I believe that it's out there. Anyone that wants to start using Gherkin can start using it today. You don't have to use a tool or anything. It doesn't have to be automated either. And all you have to do is just start to use those carriage returns, and then eventually you're going to want to start trying new and different things, and the documentation is going to support you like crazy. It's great.
Great.
All right. So what other questions do you got?
It looked like you were using Simian on a development, or as we're writing this stuff, all of a sudden now you've got basically QA and engagement managers now writing in a code environment. Are there any recommended editors? And this is more specific to Acklen, but are you looking to get us all into Simian or another platform that you're like, hey, this would really work? Or
at the easiest level, we could all just get into GitHub, because GitHub has a text editor built in.
Okay.
And after you make an edit, then you can click at the bottom. There's a commit area where you can actually commit your change, just like a developer commits a change. And so at the basic level, that would work. Okay. Simian, on the other hand, gives a little bit more focus on the idea of a non-technical, a non-developer user. So they're actually trying to kind of push you into that features folder where all the features are, maybe keeping you out of the code stuff. Yeah. And it also has a commit thing at the very bottom where you can actually commit just like you would do in GitHub, and it has the integration. Simian is one of a ton of tools that I found. We don't have to go with Simian. It might be a cool thing to try out, but
I just didn't know if there were recommended text editors that are specific, that you've seen that are specific for Gherkin.
The thing is, it really comes down to coloring, highlighting the syntax a certain color, and Simian does that out of the box. GitHub probably won't.
Right.
Actually, let me just run over to GitHub and go to the YK admin. And I'm going to drill into features and login feature. Oh, it does kind of. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. It does kind of highlight the syntax just a little bit. Can you see that?
Yes.
So red feature.
Scenario given. Yeah, that's all we really need from our.
It kind of does. Now, when you get into the automation stuff, you're going to want that feedback. You're going to want that little green check.
Yes,
and so unless there is a way to integrate that with GitHub somehow, or unless GitHub starts to show you that green check, you'll have to use a different tool. Another thing is, how in Google Docs we can actually type, several people typing at the same time. In GitHub you don't have that. It's just a blank. It's a one person at a time editing. I'm not sure about Simian. I haven't tried it with multiple people. But in GitHub, you make a bunch of changes and then you commit. If someone else is making changes at the same time, then someone is likely to lose their changes, or you end up with merge conflicts, and then that's weird. That gets into programming area.
Right.
One thing that I noticed about Simian that was pretty cool was its ability to invite people from outside to view or to collaborate. So even though you are the one that has GitHub access and you can commit, then other people can actually, you can bring in business people without actually giving them access to your code, write access to your code. You can actually give them access to Simian, and then through that you can approve their changes. Like if it's a business person on the other side and they want to be able to make changes to scenarios, give them access through Simian, and then you can make the final commits. So that's probably another cool feature.
Okay.
And anything like that that can bring people together to collaborate on this stuff is going to help us build the right thing.
Yeah. And how do you see this? How do you envision this integrating with what we're currently doing, which is in Trello, and putting acceptance criteria and stuff in Trello?
I think that there are a number of different ways we could do that. We could very possibly. Hang on a second, I got to pass my phone off to somebody else to answer it. We could paste, because every feature has a link, its own link. It's just a file, so we can give a link to the GitHub page, or we can give a simian link, and that right there, it just pastes it into the description of the card in Trello.
Yeah.
That could work. It would require less information possibly on the actual Trello card, but then having it in Trello allows you that whole tracking of seeing it going across and having the estimates and things like that. What else?
Sharon was talking up a storm there.
Oh man, Sharon and Luis are having a good time over there.
Yeah. We were discussing about some of the awesome features that this language has provided. We were just concerned about something derived of the TDD approach. I mean, as we are a company that uses TDD in our development, that implies that the tests come first. But when you are creating the symbols dictionary for the actions that you're going to use in your futures, the QA or the BO, anyone that is going to redact those dictionaries is going to use CSS selectors. What we were concerned about was that those CSS selectors are going to affect or condition the development of the screen. For example, if he says, this button is going to have a name login, then the developer is going to be forced to use that name. We think that we could easily solve this problem and keep the TDD approach with the Trello, with the help of Trello. I mean, we right now have a dev task, a checklist for in every card that has the list of tasks that the devs are going to do. We could add another checklist that is something like, these are the screen elements. So the developers and QA testers agree before starting the development person in the names of those elements. I mean, the QA team says something like, we need a login button. The dev say, okay, we are going to provide you the selector. This is the CSS selector that you're going to put in the dictionary for the spec feature.
And the data while working on those tests too.
Yeah. So that there are a lot of other things that will help to this process. Like if we have a boilerplate, we have a lot of boilerplates. We know since the start of the beginning, this element is for sure going to be in this menu because that's the design that we have agreed on. That's the guidelines that this boilerplate has. So I think everything is it could be easily integrated with those kinds of information and communication between all the sets. I think the grooming sessions, we have the 3 friends approach. We have a PO, we have a QA tester, and we have a developer. Yes. Yeah. No, the friends. 3 friends.
Tres amigos.
Tres amigos. 3 friends. In that same grooming session, the QA and the developer could agree in that. We will name this button as login. So you just have to put login in that part.
Probably we should talk about those scenarios before the grooming because if not, we could take a lot of time on that grooming.
Yeah. But I think we could easily establish some standards, something like we have also the DDD approach, domain-driven development. Okay. This business object is called invoice, for example. So the name of this button is going to be the action create, the name of the object create invoice. So we have because language in the code, in the test, the design, in the dictionary of steps. As you say at the beginning, everything just meshes itself.
Another thing that we can do along those same lines is one, we could let our testers, if they're writing the steps, they could make some assumptions on the names of the CSS selectors, and then later on, as we're developing the feature, we can actually go back and modify the steps to correct any incorrect selectors. So that's one way. Another way is to I would love to have actual steps in there, beforehand, but if that's not possible, what you can do is you can actually just leave the step blank in the steps, like just not have any code that backs the step, and it will actually be in this this pending phase. So it stays pending, which is kind of like failing or non-existent, until the code is actually there to make it pass. So that's another possibility. The first step, of course, is to get that Gherkin style acceptance criteria laid in, and then the second step is to actually write some code to back those segments. So that could be either done ahead of time, or it could be done later in the process. But either way, as long as we have that acceptance criteria in there, and as long as we have a test runner that's trying to execute that, then we know that we have something, that guiding light, and that's kind of what we're looking for there.
Yeah.
What else? Hey, Paulette, I see you're speaking, but you've got your mic is muted.
There you go. Sorry about that.
That's
I
all
thought
right.
I'd turn it on. Well, first of all, sorry, my lingo is not the best yet, but I'm going to try to get my question across the best way possible. Well, the specifications are written in plain English, right? But
Yeah.
how broad is that, like, alphabet or dictionary that it has? How about if you have a typo or you have a very specific specification? Is there
What
like
if it uses a word that was invented by the client, right?
right, like, yeah, like a certain process or whatnot, something that they have? How would you do with that? Would it give you an error? Because I know if you put the wrong code, it'll, like it did right now, it'll give you an error. But how about the plain English that you're using in the specifications?
For the test to pass, it needs code in the back end that uses the same English. It could be Swahili. It doesn't have to be English.
Okay.
It just needs to be the same character for character, capital letter, lowercase letter, the same text. So if you say Goose Fraba, that's from Seinfeld, by the way. If you say Goose Fraba, given Goose Fraba, then you have to have in your code, you've got to have some code that says given dot and then Goose Fraba. But then once it has that, it'll execute. And if it passes, then that segment passes.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether it's Swahili or Spanish or English or whatever, just as long as the text matches in both places. Anything else?
No.
Anybody else? These are great questions, by the way. Okay, go ye forth and prosper. Hope this has helped. I hope it's going to help you in the future, and I would encourage you to start experimenting with this just as soon as possible. Let's get some features built up and get some automated testing going.
Sounds good.
Right.
Thanks, Byron.
Cool.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thanks.